welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. Here, my good friend Dan Wiseman. We decided to delay this podcast, didn't we, Dan?
Yeah, probably quite sensibly, to be honest with you.
It was, yeah. I mean, Monday night was absolutely atrocious, but you don't need me or you to tell you that. If you're listening to that, you know how bad it was. Going into the game, I don't think we expected to beat Leicester.
No.
I mean, you know, the third best side in the league this season, obviously, as the table points out. And I was on the preview duty actually this week, and in my preview I stated we should go with the same formation, pretty much the same team that played on the Sunday against Man City in Wembley, because I thought we played well, and it rustled quite a few people that thinking, oh, we've got to go three at the back because we beat them with three at the back. The system isn't why we beat them, in my opinion.
No, absolutely not. You were right to say that, I think.
And I mean, people were probably smug after, thinking, oh well, we'd have been better with three at the back. I genuinely don't believe we were. We were awful. But you know, so watching from home, Dan, you would have had a bit of a different perspective to what I had. Yeah. How did you? I mean, the first 15 minutes for me, I thought we played really well. We had the two chances. Hurahan hit wide with his right foot. I mean, that man needs to learn how to shoot with his right foot, doesn't he? But how did the first 15 minutes fare for you? Because I'm sure you would have had a much better sort of gauge of how that went.
Well, no, I thought it was all right. It was. Relatively, we moved the ball quite nicely at points. We were matching them pretty evenly for possession. Obviously, we have that kind of chance, and then I actually think that Ali should do a bit better with his free kick. Yeah, kind of put an absolute dream of a ball in as a number 9. It's the perfect free kick, really. In that, I think he couldn't really get any clear contact on it, and it went well wide. But I actually think he probably should be doing a bit better with that chance. And so we were doing all right, I think, to be honest with you, mate. As you said, I wasn't expecting a win. I would have been very happy with a point. And to be honest with you, I didn't really mind losing that game if we lost it in a similar manner to how we lost the City game. Yeah. If we went out there and lost, and because, you know, Leicester were just let side and Vardy always scores against us as he does, and if that had just been the case, then I wouldn't have actually minded too much, because I think there's games that we can look at in the running that we have to win more than this one. But yeah, I thought early stages were okay, but then I think as soon as a player of Rayner's ilk makes that mistake, the team just seems to just fall apart, didn't it?
It was terrible. I mean, at that point, I wouldn't say we were at our best, but we were certainly competing. And when it's 0-0, you always fancy yourself to stay in the game. And I believe it was a ball from Mark Albrighton. I mean, you've all probably seen it. It's been memed and everything. But what is Rayner doing? I've got friends who are Liverpool fans. And after the game, they were like, it's just a mistake. I don't think you understand. Like, that's probably going to send us down. I mean, we can't put it down just purely to that. But when you're down there scrapping, and you're struggling to score goals, and the outfield is as mediocre as it has been for the whole season, you have to rely on someone of Rayner's ilk. I mean, the man's won a World Cup. That when your goalkeeper's doing that, you're destined for failure. Yeah,
I mean, that's exactly the kind of mistake that we brought him in to prevent from happening.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, at the time, Heaton had just been injured. Nyland, we hadn't seen, you know, the Leicester games, which very much like cemented his place as a very good goalkeeper. But back then, there was still a lot of doubts about him. And so, to avoid exactly those kinds of goalkeeping mistakes, we brought in Pepe Reina. I don't know if you know this, but it was his, because they said it on the coverage, it was his 400th appearance in English football, that game.
Wow.
And if a player like that is making that kind of mistake on his 400th appearance, you're right when you say that it relegated us. If players like Pepe are doing that, you know that there is nothing that you can do in those situations. That's just individual errors. More individual errors have led to goals against us than they have for any other side in the division now. But again, that was Pepe made that one mistake, but we were making mistakes again from set pieces. Yeah, we struggled really badly. There was throughout the game we persistently put El Mohammadi on Johnny Evans, and Johnny Evans was winning header after header. They had I think I've got it here. Was it? Yes, 6 attempts on target just from set pieces alone.
It's crazy, isn't it? And Soyuncu was, I mean, we talk again on the podcast, there's always a free man at the back, and it was Soyuncu. You don't let a centre-back have space from a set play. It was totally inexcusable, and I mean, what else can we say on it, Dan? It was a shocking night. Am I surprised? Yes, because I thought we would compete, especially after the the Carabao Cup final. But for me, it if anything, it shows that potentially the players were more bothered about a personal accolade and something to put on their CV than survival, because a lot of these players will be able to get moves off the back of this. And it's just disappointing, really. I mean, watching that, as we kind of said off camera, it felt very much like the relegation year. Harping back to Wickham away that year. This is my first away for a few months, actually.
Yep.
And I was talking to some guys who I was sat near, and I said that the atmosphere was as toxic as it's been. And I mean, as your brother can testify, apparently Southampton was worse. Again, we really had to win. I mean, I don't think there's that much of a need for there to be that much of a toxic atmosphere against Leicester.
No.
Because as optimistic as we were, and as I was in the preview, we weren't expecting to win that game at all. But
I think it's just after the huddle and everything, mate.
Yeah.
Like how that moment seemed to be. I watched that happen. I was like, yeah, this team's still got fight. This team's still got purpose. And I think to do that so publicly on the pitch in front of the 30,000 odd Villa fans who had come to Wembley that day and just had their hearts broken, to then take that hope that we had from that moment and just watch it disintegrate in 90 minutes was what really stung, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot that you can say on it, and I'm interested. The Mings penalty, obviously, I kind of tweeted about this. I'm just fed up talking about VAR at this point. VAR's not the reason we're going down. Yeah, it's cost us a few goals here and there, but we would have lost that game 4-0 whether that penalty was given or not.
Because they should have had possibly another two.
Exactly, 100%. The way that we were defending, how that you can attribute VAR, I'm fed up talking about it. Mings, I don't think it is a penalty. It hits his shoulder, but to be honest with you, if your centre back's diving down like that to put a ball away with his shoulder,
you're asking him to look for it, aren't you?
You're asking him to run the risk, and as soon as you give a referee a subjective decision like that, VAR, we know, backs the referee. So that there isn't really too much of a process involved. You can floor it all you want, but yeah, my thoughts is, mate, is that Jamie Vardy seems to put every single penalty down the middle. Yeah. I don't know about you, but it seems
it's the safest option.
Yeah, he does that time and time again. He usually smashes it into the roof, which obviously he didn't do this time. But I was a little bit surprised we didn't pick up on that, because that's normally where you see Jamie Vardy put his penalties.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of them ones. I mean, I guess if you look at the FA Cup fourth round, Norwich and Spurs, I mean, it's heavily documented now that goalkeepers take water bottles with which penalty taker is going to go where, and when Vardy was on the pitch, you knew he was going to take that. So, I mean, Pepe didn't have a great day, did he? I kind of expected him to save it. I don't know, but we've not had that much luck. But so going back to that huddle, I mean, that was clearly a PR move that was conducted by someone else. I don't think Dean didn't do that. I thought that at the time. I thought this is too good to be true. We lost to one of the best sides in Europe, and we've obviously got the story of the local manager and the local captain and all that. So it was all for the cameras, really.
Yeah, no,
and it just
shown that now,
got egg on our face now, really, haven't we, doing that? But it's gonna be memed forever. It'll be in one of them sort of out of context Premier League pages in a couple of years' 100%. Time. But I mean, I don't even know what to say on that Leicester game, mate, because honestly it was depressing sitting there in the stands and having to watch that. But one thing I would say is Oyan Ireland or Jed Steer would not have done what Pepe Reina did.
No, absolutely not.
They would not have done. Am I saying that that's the reason we lost? Possibly, because I think we were still in the game. Because I think as an outfield player, you can kind of control things. You rely on your goalkeeper to try and keep you in it, and obviously there's no guarantees that your keeper's going to keep a clean sheet. But when they're so dejected and clearly lacking confidence in that they were never going to come back from 1-0.
Absolutely. And that brings it back to the point of saying of Pepe Reina's ilk. If Jed or Oyan had done that, I don't think the heads go down quite as much as they do when you see Pepe Reina do that, because he's just a player that you don't expect that from. But right. Let me hit you some facts. Are you ready?
Okay.
Some of these are very depressing, unbelievable at points. So we were dispossessed 14 times. throughout the game. Leicester managed more tackles on a 9% better tackle success rate. They also won more aerial duels. Villa players were dribbled past 9 times. We didn't even get to 70% on the pass completion rate. It was 69. We made just over 200 passes, 3 key passes, and neither Villa fullback made 50% of their passes.
That's outrageous. I mean, everyone who listens to the podcast knows my feelings on Matt Target, but I'm starting to have doubts on Frederick Gilbert, mate. I'm not going to lie. I think he clearly isn't fit enough for the Premier League. He doesn't really know how to manage himself personally in a game. I feel he'll go bursting up 3 times, running from byline to byline, and then all of a sudden he's shagged for the rest of the game. I think he's a perfectly fine Championship right back, which is something we're going to have to be looking at now, really, isn't it? Matt Target, what I will say, made a few interceptions when he needed to, but just overall isn't good enough.
No.
I'm not going to hear anything from anyone else on that, because
there are people that think he should be playing for England.
Yeah, I mean, and Adrian Durham is one of them people, so I guess, take that with a grain of salt. But if you think Matt Target is a good left back, emphasis on the left back, because he can get forwards. Yeah, and he's proved his worth. Yeah. But even so, he still proved that it's a dangerous option to have in there when you're on the defensive, because you're in a slightly different position, but you still got to mark the winger. But just generally, Matt, we just weren't good enough. I thought Nakamba was probably our man of the match, but when you a midfield of Maddison, Pratt, and Ndidi, and then you can bring Yuri Tillemans on, he was always going to be sort of having his work cut out for him. Really poor game by Louise's standards, in my opinion, and Jack, again, people probably haven't said this, but I'd say for the past 5 games, Jack's been poor, and I think he knows he's out.
Yeah, I think you can see that, to be honest with you. There's too many, but the problem is Gilbert we bought from a side that had just been relegated into the Ligue 2 at the time. He cost £4 million. You're buying the team who conceded the most goals in Ligue 1 in the season they got relegated. They're right back for £4 million. You get what you pay for.
Oh yeah,
100%. I think that can be said for a lot of these players, and we're finding consistent flaws in them, because we bought most of them for like 8 or 9 million. And Matt Target we paid 17 million for, and the less I say about that, the better, because it makes me feel slightly ill. But yeah, Douglas, probably the worst performance that we've seen from him. So I just didn't think there was enough fight from either of those centre midfielders. That they combined for 2 tackles in the 90 minutes between the two of them.
Outrageous.
Michael Brighton made 5.
Wow.
I mean,
wow.
It says Douglas Luiz was dispossessed on more occasions than he made a tackle or a dribble combined.
I don't even know what to say to that, mate.
This is what I'm saying, but I mean,
maybe Dan Bardell was right.
I suppose, shifting it on, we didn't see much fight on the pitch, but we have seen some fighting at Bodymore over the last couple of days.
This is definitely what I needed to see before I went to bed last night, that Danny Drinkwater's nutting Jota. I mean, it's probably a good job we delayed the podcast, Dan, to be fair, so we can talk about this. Yes. Danny Drinkwater is probably up there with Simon Dawkins and Grant Holt in being one of the worst signings, and the most pointless signings as well. I mean, I think when you're signing players, it's great going for ability and that, and I mean, I'm by no means saying that Danny Drinkwater has bags and bags of ability, but I think we knew what he could do. I mean, we'd seen what he did at Leicester, but he's not. I think he played like 6 games over the course of 2 years for Chelsea, didn't he? Something like that. So you're signing an unfit player, and as well, when you're signing a player, you've got I think a big thing is you've got to scout personality as well, and someone who's been done for drink driving, who's known to be a gambler and just a general twat. Why do you sign someone like that?
No, of course.
When you're in the environment we're in, where we're scrapping, you don't want someone like that who's going to come in the dressing room and headbutt someone as irrelevant as Jota. I mean, what could possibly have gone on for him to headbutt Jota?
Mate, I would love to. I don't actually. I was going to say I'd love to know, but I don't even know if I do at this point. No, it's just Drinkwater is. I tweeted this morning that probably the worst signing I can think of, because We've had some pretty pointless signings. I mean, Tom Carroll, you can make a case for.
He's not got a club.
Exactly. Well, I don't think Danny Drinkwater will.
No,
to be honest with you.
No.
And so it's one thing I can understand a player coming in, like we had it happen with Genus as well, where you kind of make these sort of desperate January signings and they're a little bit unfit, and sometimes you just can't get them fit in Tom Carroll's case, and they get sent back. But they don't positively affect the squad, but they don't negatively affect the squad either. They just kind of exist. And so, but yeah, Danny Drinkwater, mate. I've funnily enough, I from the first game I saw him play, I really didn't like him, and not just like obviously everyone would criticise his performance, but I just didn't think he had it. He didn't seem to look at all interested. I didn't think he looked particularly in shape, to be honest with you.
No.
And so, but when I saw him celebrating that Esri Konsa goal on the bench, do you remember that video where? And I thought, you know what, maybe there is a guy that wants to do well at this club and sees it as a good opportunity to change his career path slightly. But no, he's just been terrible, mate.
You can't keep him around now. No. And I mean, you can say what you want about Jota, but I mean, he got a few assists for us, didn't he? I guess not really been able to get his way back in the team since the hernia. But Jota is an Aston Villa player. He's contracted to Aston Villa for 3 years. Danny Drinkwater is not. Mm-hmm. He is a Chelsea player. You absolutely cannot keep him around. And if Dean decides to keep him, I mean, but I'm sure we'll get on to Dean's future. I've decided I'm gonna clip out. We're gonna talk about Dean, and that'll be a separate video.
Okay.
But we're gonna keep it in the podcast. It'll go out as a separate video as well. But I mean, you can't keep someone around like that, mate. You really can't. And I mean, I tried not to criticise him too much when he first came because he'd not played a lot of football, and when you think of the romance of how Leicester won the league, Drinkwater was probably as important as Kante, because I mean, you couldn't really have one without the other. I think
he scored the goals that Kante didn't at the time.
Exactly, and the sort of setting up Vardy, it was an important role. I mean, Andy King wasn't exactly pulling the strings in midfield, was he? No disrespect to Andy King, he'd probably be way better than Drinkwater right now.
Yeah, very good point.
But I don't know, mate. It's Danny Drinkwater. It doesn't inspire confidence. Ironically, I think that video, out of all of the January transfers videos that I did, and I didn't do Boy Bastan, but that one definitely wouldn't have pulled the views. Danny Drinkwater, I think we got like 3,500 views on that.
People were, I think, excited, but we just made knee-jerk signings, Bastan included.
I mean, Rayner was a bit of one.
Yeah, I think we've looked at players' surnames. And just gone.
Does that look good with the number 4?
Yes, literally, like purely on reputation, I think, mate. And look, I think we can't criticise too much because I think we could argue that the one thing that they didn't do in the summer was buy players with enough of a Premier League reputation. And so you can't have it both ways, but there has to be a middle ground to these signings. And I was pretty relieved to see that Suso is being scrutinised as well alongside Dean. So, and rightly so, because how many of the signings have we made can you say have been genuinely good?
I think looking at the signings, I don't want to shit on Suso too much, because I'd imagine Purslow sat him down and said, listen, you've got £130 million and you've got to sign a whole squad. So you've got to try and find value. But I was saying to Cal and Ollie earlier that when you're spending £10 million on average on a player, like you can't nickel and dime in the Premier League. This isn't the Championship. You can't try and find a gem or get like a young striker who's quick or whatever and take a gamble on that, because there's £160 million at stake at the end of the season. And I mean, we've not even spent that, have we?
No,
the reward of keeping you up, we've not even spent that, and there's always going to be the talks of, you spent that much, but we had Albert Adoma, Glenn Whelan, Mile Jedinak, Tommy Elphick, Berke Bjarnason left. There was probably 8 outgoings. Tammy, Axel, Anwar, loan players that expired. Obviously, we managed to renew the El Ghazi deal, which for €3 million, I think was a great deal. To
Yeah,
be
no,
perfectly
absolutely.
honest. I mean, he's second top in the squad for goal contributions. So in terms of goals and assists, so, yeah. I mean, I know you either like Anwar or you don't, but he's scored and created important chances. Equally missed some just as important, but I feel like we've definitely got our value for money out of Anwar El Ghazi. But when you're signing, I mean, someone did a list of all the players we signed. Trezeguet was like a bottom 6 Turkish side, something like that. I think coming back to your point though, which ones have we really seen value for? I think Bjorn.
Yep.
I think was a bargain, and he's not featured because of the fallout or whatever, and not suiting the system. But I think he was fairly good value for money. I think Douglas Luiz will be, but obviously, as I say, you can't just go signing on potential all the time. I think that there needed to be a bit of a sprinkling of experience, and
I think it just comes down to how many of the signings, given if you went back to last summer's window, how many signings that we made would you make again? I would sign Bjorn. I think Ali has been a good buy. I like Samatta. I think whatever our future is, I hope he'll be with the club, and I think wherever we're in the Premier League or the Championship, I think he'll score goals. And so I'd do that. But Ty and the guys that we renewed, like Anwar as well, I would do that again. But in terms of the guys that we saw fresh from the summer, I think even Heaton, although he didn't do much wrong, given that he's gone and had the injury that he has, and we're not going to see him for so long, you like way beyond that. And obviously they don't have the foresight on these things, but it's yet again a transfer that if we knew this was going to happen, that we wouldn't have made.
Well, we're going to be stuck in the Championship with an injured 34-year-old goalkeeper who we're trying to rehabilitate, who doesn't have a lot of market value. Great goalkeeper, and he's come back from his injuries before.
Yep.
He's been obviously a fantastic goalkeeper for us. I don't want to disrespect Tom Heaton at all, but in terms of monetary value, he's worthless now, pretty much. But you've also got Neeland, you've got Steer.
Is Kalinic still on loan?
Kalinic, I believe so, but I think there may be a loan to buy. I'm not too sure, but Kalinic as well. And then looking just a bit further down the goalkeeping pyramid, you've got Vasalcho, who's supposed to be a goalkeeper, but ahead of him, Matthias Sarkic.
Yep.
You've got 6 or 7 goalkeepers there, who probably Vasalcho aside, you could start any of them in the Championship. But what's the use in having 5 first-team goalkeepers when we've barely got our midfield strong enough?
Well, yeah, I think the one thing, mate, and this is like one of the things that I think is most painful about the situation and is most upsetting, is that last time we went down and the problems were obvious.
Yeah.
It was a toxic squad. The ownership needed a change. It was clear to see what we needed to do in order to rebuild in the Championship and go up. But this time, there isn't that. There isn't, like, are we really saying again that we need another rebuild? Like, having just signed 13 players this season in all. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think we've had so many rebuilds over the past few seasons. This will be our third in 4 years or something like that. We're questioning the club's hierarchy again.
I think there will be a need of a rebuild though, because I feel like if Samatta can get 7 goals, I think someone will look at him and be like, yeah, we can take a punt on him. As poor as I think Douglas Luiz has been recently, there's definitely a player there, and if you're a lazy scout and you look at the highlights reel, I think you could easily go, yeah, okay, we'll buy him for 15 million or 20 million or whatever. I mean, he's definitely not going back to City, and he probably won't stay in England, but the Italian game's probably suited to Douglas Luiz. Marv could potentially get a move. I mean, the obvious ones, Jack, Ty, McGinn. I think the best thing that could happen to us is McGinn gets injured again, and it's confirmed we're down, so he's not going anywhere. But I think he may regret not getting a move. But you wouldn't begrudge him on that. But I think going down, I mean, who stays? As I say, like, do you really see Douglas Luiz and Marvellous Nakamba, even Bjorn, pledging their loyalty to try and take us straight back up, because nothing's guaranteed now.
No, the problem is I wouldn't. Douglas Luiz, technically, and based on pedigree, would arguably be the most talented player in the division, but I wouldn't want him playing in a Championship game because if you put Douglas Luiz in the middle of Ellen Road or in the middle of the Den, he falls apart.
Yeah.
Like we have to be real. He hasn't got the psychology to be able to deal with that. And I think this is one of the things that I think our business really lacks in the summer is a look, because we know and look, I know me and you have both stood up against this at times, Dan. We know the pressure that is put on players to succeed pretty much instantaneously at this football club. Like we know this was the Wesley Filler podcast for a long time, and we stood up for Wes, and we criticised the amount of pressure that we put on these players. But we have to face facts and say that's not going anywhere. It's been there for as long as I can remember. Villa fans will continue to put that, as much as I despise it, Villa fans will continue to put that pressure on players. And I don't think we looked for players that were ready to come in and deal with that pressure. I think buying a lot of players from the Belgian league kind of is showing that way. There isn't the expectant of the Premier League. There isn't the pressure of playing at Villa Park and that playing for a club of that stature. And I think we missed that a lot in these signings, that we didn't go and sign players who mentally that we'd seen handle divisions and playing for clubs like this. Yeah,
definitely. It's underrated, and when you drop to the Championship, that's, as you say, magnified, because Ellen Road, the Den, places like that, there's no easy game in the Championship, and there's no easy place to go. And especially when you've got a fan base like Villa's, that even the home games aren't easy. I think if we drop down, I think, and Louise is kicking off against Luton Town, he'll be looking around thinking, oh, well, all of that stand was filled last season, and why are there empty seats in the Holte? And I look at Norwich, and as poor as Norwich have been, managed to get the win against Leicester. Thanks to VAR, but I look at Norwich and I think, you know what, they'll bounce straight back up, and even a Watford, I think they've got Premier League quality. Let's be real, it's just managerial. Things go stale. I think that was their problem. They've got devastating pace, and a fair bit of money in the bank as well. They've not spent too much, so I think if they were to drop down, sell, the likes of Sarr, Decore, they'd be able to spend in the Championship and come straight back up. But
Deeney's not going anywhere, and I think he'd be good at that level.
Oh, definitely. He's probably a 20-goal a season Championship striker, even with his age. He definitely score against us down there, that's for sure. But there would definitely be a rebuild if we went down, because we're complying with FFP, but the EFL are ready to snatch it at us if we go down. I reckon we're absolutely screwed for selling the stadium. I saw something from Kieran Maguire in The Price of Football, and he tweeted, I think Nottingham Forest had their ground valued. I think it was it was Leicester actually. It was one of the two. It was sort of East Midlands club had their ground valued at 40 million, which was half the price Derby sold theirs for. Now I think there's a case for Villa Park being worth more, so I think we might be all right. But the EFL really, they've got blues, haven't they?
Yeah, they're really cracking down on it, aren't they?
So I think there would be a fire sale, and obviously Jack, Ty, John are the first to go. If you can keep everyone else, I guess that's all right, and then build from there. You've got Conor Hourihane. Lansbury's deal's up in the summer. Davis is as well, I believe, and Callum O'Hare. But I think you've got to tie them guys up. Even Lansbury, I rate Lansbury. I think he's a Championship midfielder. But it's Mackie. He started the season. Dean sort of honoured the ones who got us up near the start. You were seeing Neil Taylor, Lansbury featured until his goal was disallowed. Probably could have been an entirely different season for him if that goal stood.
Very good point.
But he's made a paper, isn't he? But I don't know, mate. It's just I've resided to the fact that we've gone down, because going every week and desperately trying to cling on to that, it's just not good for my mental health. No. So we're in the Championship, but I also saw a tweet earlier. It was, can we please not glamorise the Championship? And let's not. let's try not to do that. It'll be fun, but staying down there as long as we can remain financially stable, I think we're all right.
Yeah, we'll all be there next season, mate. Wherever
there'll be 10,000 that won't be.
Well, we will be.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. I think it's always harder when you go through obviously as many highs and lows as you do supporting this club, then the lows feel lower and the highs definitely feel higher. I think this is just a case of that. Look, I'm not sure after all that, after everything that happened, that the model for this football club to go on and to achieve the things that it wanted to is viable. I haven't seen enough of the people in the positions at Villa Park that they fulfil that show me that we could match a model like that. I got the same feeling last time we got relegated.
Moneyball works with a plucky underdog, and you don't need to hear us say that we're a massive club, but we're a massive club.
We are.
We're not Brentford.
No.
We shouldn't be doing this the Brentford way, but
we look, I think there's a lot that needs to be said, and the club have to make a reaction now. They have to do something, given what's happened with Drinkwater and Holte and the result last night. I think the rest of the Chelsea game is huge for a lot of people, namely Dean Smith. And I think, either this week or next week, we will see the club take some action. I'm not sure exactly what that's going to be. Saw the rumours today that Football Insider reporting that we're looking at JT.
yeah,
Football Insider, I know, aren't the most reliable of sources, but
no smoke without fire.
no, of course, and we'll discuss this
St Allardyce as well.
in a separate video. Yeah, I've seen that, but I suppose, as you said, separate video for the managerial discussion.
We can go with that now.
Let's do it.
I'll clip it out. So yeah, but I mean, what I understand why Villa fans are questioning Dean and the team, but when Dean Smith was appointed, I reckon I mean, first of all, he wasn't the first choice. No matter what Christian Persday will say, he wasn't. He was the cheaper option, and the right option. I'd like to think so, but I reckon when he sat down, he said, "Look, if you get us up this season, then that is amazing. If not, you're not going to get any money, and this is going to be really hard for you. But you've got to get us up next season." You can't account for a 10-game win run like we went on, and things like that happen in football. You beat Derby in the playoffs. We're lucky to get past West Brom.
Yep.
And Derby was, if we were going to go up, Derby was who we had to play in the final. Probably wouldn't have beat West Brom in a one-off game at Wembley because we're Aston Villa.
Or Leeds,
exactly. I mean, they capitulated, so it had to be Derby. Got lucky there, really. And signing as many players as we did, losing as many players as we did, it's not all I hate to point the finger back to Dr. Tony, but and Steve Bruce, but when you ruin a squad like they did and ruin the club sort of financially, it was always going to be hard for Dean, and Dean needed another season in the Championship.
Mm-hmm.
But fans are calling for him, and whether you agree with that or not, I think one thing that bothers me about this is we give him a 4-month contract after we won a few games. A 4-year contract after we won a few games in the Premier League. And again, as I said, you fall for the romance of it. People, not too many people like Villa, but they'll look at it and go, "Oh, Grealish is captain, Dean Smith's manager. I wish that was our club." Chelsea are enjoying that with Lampard at the wheel, but things happen too soon, and this talk of him leaving, it bothers me because you've trusted him enough to give him the job in the first place and to give him a £700,000 a year annual salary increase. There's a project there. Surely they want that seen out. At least one more season in the Championship. I know this is going to be very unpopular, but I don't understand.
I think the only the problem is with me and Dean is I haven't actually seen from him yet that he is ready to manage this football club. I think it is one thing that Walsall and Brentford, as we were talking about, all very well and good there, and you're able to again, and we were saying this about comparing the size of Brentford and Villa, and that stands for the manager. And look, I love Dean Smith. I love what he brings to this football club. I love that he's a Villa fan. I read the article that the BBC ran on him before Wembley, and just fell in love with it. And it kind of made me realise how much I love that man. And I think it's important that you allow these fairy tales to happen, so to speak, and you give people this opportunity to make it at their book. Absolutely. But I wasn't particularly... When Grealish was out in the Championship, we were so bad. We were terrible. We went on the 10-game win streak, and we won some games playing good football, and we won some games playing particularly bad football. There were some that we had to really grind out, and that it wasn't particularly pretty. I'm thinking St Andrews, but we won them, and that's what's important. And we won games 4-0, like the one against Derby where Jack came back. My concern is Jack Grealish got us promoted.
Yeah.
And so
give him the trophy.
I think to go from the game, it was 0-0 at Stoke, wasn't it? The last game before Jack came back, was it? Was it that when we drew 0-0?
1-1.
1-1. That was it. And then we came back. Jack came back into got the Ironman, and we won 4-0 at home against Derby, who were chasing the playoffs. And my concern is, we always knew how good Jack was. There was talk of him playing for England in that side. And since we come up, I haven't seen the football that Dean Smith's side played at Brentford. I see.
We didn't really see that on the win run though either, mate.
No, we didn't. And so this is the only thing that worries me, is that I haven't actually seen. There was a lot of fortuitous events that led to us getting promoted, and Dean Smith played his part. And he did an unbelievable job last season in the Championship, regardless of the football that we played, or regardless of how aesthetically pleasing the performances were. The fact the man got us promoted was unbelievable, and we would have all taken it when he took over.
100%.
We
knew what would
season.
happen financially, and sort of in terms of Jack leaving. So it was important that we went up, but
as I said,
wrong time really.
I'm not really. Bielsa, you look at Leeds, and you know that if Leeds go into the Premier League under a manager of that ilk and a club like Leeds, I think they'll do pretty well.
Do you think? I mean, they went sort of 8 games without a win at the turn of the year, they bottled it.
Yeah, they did, definitely.
Last season they bottled it. They're looking pretty good now. I'm pretty sure they're top 2. I don't think Bielsa's as good as everyone makes out, but I mean,
I don't buy him being to this footballing god that Pep Guardiola cleaned the boots for and all this like that. I think is all.
It's all hype, isn't it? He's an old man.
Yeah,
he's not going to disrespect an old man.
I think he's a good manager, but I like. I see similar traits like Nuno. I think when he took Wolves up, and I didn't really see it in Sheffield United at the time, but. There was clearly a club like that. There is just such a different feel around the place, and an optimism that we could never match. And so I suppose in its own way, that's a club identity in itself. Just the general belief and the passion and the love that is flowing around that football club at the moment. It like almost provides their own identity. But all these clubs like Wolves, like Sheffield United, that have gone up. I mean, dare I say it, Burnley to an extent have got. Managers who have implemented a system from day one that the club believe in, that the football club believes in, and that is evident and you believe could stand up to the Premier League. And I don't think we ever saw that with Dean.
But one thing I will say, Burnley got relegated under Dyche, and here we are. 5 years later, he's still in charge. As you said, there is a sort of a clear pattern of play there, and even when they went down, and how the manner of how they came back up, that was never really compromised or in doubt. But I think Dean plays a brand of football that's so dangerous, and it's I don't mean to undermine or disrespect it at all, but it's a very schoolboy-like way of playing when you play football with your mates. No one we certainly didn't sit there in the courts and think, right, we're going to try and keep a clean sheet when we're playing with our mates. You just go and outscore. You simply go and outscore. And again, when you sign unproven players in the most competitive, quick, strong league in the world, you're going to struggle. And we've outscored the likes of Sheffield United, Crystal Palace, Brighton, Newcastle, but we've also conceded 56 goals. And, you can only be as good as your defence.
Absolutely.
You really can. And, I mean, as we've kind of touched on, a man who kind of brings the defence is Sam Allardyce, and it makes me sick. And I saw one of your tweets earlier.
Yep.
with the cigars in hand and the trophy on the desk. And I mean, people surely can't want Sam Allardyce at Aston Villa. They surely can't.
No, I mean, obviously I'd like
He's
to
laughing if he gets that job.
I just want to see change, mate. For me, and this has long been my opinion, is that this season is so seismic. It is genuinely. I think not many people underestimate how influential staying up this season could be. I think if you injected this squad with genuine positions of quality, and we got to finally see our best team. I mean, this is another side note on Dean Smith, is that I think at this point in the season, the fact that we don't know not even our best 11, but our best formation is quite detrimental.
Yeah.
But I think if you injected this, if you said to Jack, and if you promised Jack Grealish that we will inject this squad with players that are as good as you are, and every time that you get your head up, you will see someone that's as talented as you are and that can produce the things that you can. And I think if you promised him that, then I don't think Jack Grealish would leave this season. I genuinely believe that.
Even if we went down?
I think, no, if we went down, for sure. But if we stay in the Premier League, and that has to be the be-all and end-all. And if we have to make a change, no matter who it is, if we have to make a change and just have that last throw of the dice to benefit this club's future for the next 10 or 15 years, regardless of fairy tales, and it kind of feels a bit similar to how it did under Bruce, to be honest with you, because obviously there was the whole thing going on with his parents at the time. He'd lost both his parents when he was at Villa, and there was a lot of emotion surrounding the issue, and I think there was a lot of emotion surrounding this with Dean. Obviously kind of different, but you know, it's to do with his ties to the club as a fan and everything like that, but it's an emotionally charged decision nonetheless. They don't give out 3 points for being the nicest manager in the league as Bruce was, or with Dean, you don't get points for managers supporting their boyhood clubs. You get points for winning games. And if we have to make one last roll of the dice to just pick up a plucky 3 points here and there and get us over the line at the end of the season, I don't know. I think that might be worth it.
Dean Smith gets sacked tomorrow. Who do you appoint?
My dream is Rafa Benitez is sat in China, and that doesn't sit well with me. I think we've seen a lot of players and managers go over there for a season or two, get the bag basically, and then come back over. And I think he only left Newcastle because Mike Ashley wouldn't promise him the cash for some reason, then promised it to Bruce and gave it him in abundance. But Rafa always made it clear that he wasn't getting the money. I think that was a large reason he chose to leave. That's my dream appointment. That's my fantasy is that. I mean, Everton picked up Carlo Ancelotti when they were only like 3 places above us at the time or something like that, weren't they?
Yeah.
And I think the Premier League attracts these kind of players, and although he might not fancy the relegation fight, that would be my dream appointment. But obviously we saw the JT link, mate, and I don't know why. I don't think he's particularly ready for that, but I don't know. I really don't know who the board would go with. I don't know about you.
I mean, for all the defensive frailties, does JT really warrant the job?
Surely
I mean, I like JT. I've got a lot of time for him as a player, and his professionalism is something to really be admired. But I mean, he's a 38-year-old man who's doing rainbow flicks with Henry Lansbury on the training ground every day. That's what we're paying him for.
Yeah.
He's not head coach material yet, and I think given if he puts the hours in with being a first team coach somewhere else, I have no doubt that he'll be a good manager. A player that good surely has to be, but John Terry's not the man to be given the Aston Villa head coach, if you want to call it that, role. But it makes sense. Why else do you have him in? Even if it's like the fact we even considered Thierry Henry. Mm-hmm. It's good. If you sack the man who supports the club, who sweeps the terraces as a kid, who's stood in the stands as a fan, and who's really grinded to work his way to get the job, then there has to be a better story. So appointing a former captain, England captain, Chelsea legend, Premier League, all-time great, I think that's the only way the club potentially saves face, because I think a lot of people, certainly on the outside, will go, "Oh, it didn't go so well having your local man, did it?" So I think that's to be considered. But I mean, whoever it is, please, Villa, do not get Sam Allardyce.
No.
Otherwise, I will destroy this mic, as I just did.
Yeah, I think we need someone to come in. You offer them, if Dean was to go tomorrow, a contract until the end of the season, and then an option to re-sign.
I mean, realistically, if you get Sam Allardyce in, or someone, and we're saying Sam Allardyce because he's who the internet has decided is taking the job, does he keep us up? And if he doesn't, does he get a contract? Because if Allardyce don't keep us up, you may as well just give it to JT to the end of the season.
100%.
It doesn't matter. I think we're down. The thing is, you look at the position of the table, and before the Leicester game, it was 2 games in hand. A win takes you 2 points off safety. You win 2, you're I can't even count, 5 points off the relegation zone. That looks really healthy. And if you look at it now, if you try and put that same perspective on it, a win still takes you 2 points above safety. The problem is the game in hand is against Sheffield United, and we've still got to play West Ham, we've still got to play Everton, we've still got to play Newcastle. It's just not possible. I'm saying it now. This is usually a positive podcast. Villa are down, and we're probably going to end up with Sam Allardyce.
It doesn't make for pretty reading. I think Dean's time is, unfortunately, I think is coming to an end. And the reason I say that was his naivety in the press conference.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah, my dad texted me. He was like, he's just said with a straight face that we went out to be defensively solid.
He said, there were quotes that he said that he's completely satisfied that the players turned up, that we were just beaten by a better side.
No.
The 4-0 scoreline was harsh on us, he said. The signs of a desperate man, I think, unfortunately. We gave Bruce so much stick for the things that he said after defeats like that in the Championship, and the pointless same old press conferences. Dean's reaction after a couple of games, the Southampton game, was good. I was happy that he came out and was so openly critical, and to go from that in one league game, although there was a final in between, but in the very next league game, to contradict that so much and to praise a performance that was worse than the one that we witnessed at St Mary's.
Yeah.
It just seems so bizarre to me. And I think the problem is with Dean now is that because he's starting to flip-flap and he's changed his mind on, the formation that we got promoted with, 4-3-3, he's turned his back on it, and we moved to 3-5-2, and then he's turned his back on that, and we've gone back to 4-3-3. And considering he's now changed his mind in the press conferences, he doesn't seem to have a grip on his squad. I can't see the players looking at him and feeling the inspiration and the do-or-die attitude that, okay, we might, as you say, would be relegated inevitably, but just to make a fight of it and to go out there and believe. I believe if Dean Smith is in that role until the end of the season, that we will see performances like that every week, just because I think the players have lost all hope in the coaching staff. I just don't know if the players look at him and feel the inspiration that they need to go on and just make a fight of it at the end of the season.
I don't think you're wrong, mate. I don't think you're wrong. It's a difficult one, but I think that's probably a good note to end the podcast on, as we found the SD cards full. Can't believe Mike didn't delete the stuff. Mike, Jesus.
It's the first he's put wrong, I think, so far.
Yeah, well, to be fair, he asked if I needed a hand with the setup, and I said no, so maybe it's my fault. We got this, Mike, it's fine. But if you guys enjoyed this podcast, which you probably didn't.
No, tough to enjoy that one. But if you didn't enjoy that podcast, even so, absolutely.
Do it. It helps us. We also reached the threshold for ads, so when you click on this, there's probably adverts.
Oh wow,
so
that's big.
People probably hate that, but it's quite big for us. We've been trying to get that for a while.
That's nice.
So yeah, thanks for that, guys. Thanks for watching and enjoying the content. It's been a turbulent season, but we're still here in the podcast booth every week. Pretty much, we've done it. We've been pretty good doing it since the turn of the year. We've done this every week, man.
It's gone well.
I feel we've done all right. But here we are. We also agreed as well, me and Dan, if we hit 2,000 subscribers before the end of the season, that we will be doing a Smart Shirt giveaway. So if we reach that,
yep,
we'll do that.
100 if you still want it.
If you still want it, yeah, you might not. It's subscribe for more. So if you want that shirt, subscribe. I think we need just under 300 subs now to get there. So it may be possible.
It could happen. It could happen.
Some clickbait like we're about to do. We could reach it by tomorrow, but you never know. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Up with Villa.
Chest is essential to fulfilling this got potential. It's the main man, a hero. He's the main leader of the gang. Chest